Thanks for coming here to this room. I drove from New York, as Andrew was telling you. It was real. Everything was telling me not to come. The fates were truly conspiring. I can't explain to you how odd it was. I mean, aside from the weather, then I pull off the road, and apparently there was a natural gas disaster somewhere, and everything was closed except the bathroom, which is actually the only thing I needed. But the guy asked me, like, where are you headed? It was like a movie. It's like, where are you headed? And I said, I'm going to Boston. He said, well, good luck. The roads are closed. I said, really? Why are they closed? He said, sheet of ice. Like, and then I had a thing on my car that says what it is, the temperature is outside. It was like 39 degrees. And then it was actually 39 degrees until I got here. So clearly you need more than that one job. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here. It's a surreal day. I've had a life of them. But this was really, it really was. It was like I felt like I was in a David Lynch movie. Or you know that movie Carnival of Souls? You know that movie where she dies at the very beginning? The whole movie is about her. She thinks she's still alive. And she gets a job as the church organist in death. Unbelievable movie. That's a way of introducing you to my work. Which, there's a review if you go to it just went up today. There's a review of this book in the Los Angeles Review of Books, which is a great website, actually. It's a very long review by a poet named Matthew Lipman. And he'd say, it's nice, but it's all about death. It's like, Klein is, when I die, I want Michael Klein to write a poem about me. Okay. These are poems and some prose poems, which is the first time I've sort of put prose poems in a book. And that was my assignment to myself for this book. And I will start with a prose poem, actually. I guess it's a prose poem. It's prose. That I know. Ish. It's called Movie Rain and Movie Snow. Henry James famously said that the two most beautiful words in English are summer afternoon. Let rain be next. It's been raining for 2 days in New York, and I don't know what it is about rain in New York, but it's always nostalgic. Whenever it happens, I see New York through a filter of wet weather as a place I knew in my youth. Through water, I can see the buildings that are still there on 8th Street, on Lexington Avenue, in a way that I never think about when the glare of the sun points them out. Rain is the weather of memory. Rain is strange and kind. Vincent van Gogh has a painting about rain. I'll never forget the first time I saw it at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's a huge painting, probably the largest canvas Van Gogh put paint on, and its aspect, the way Van Gogh has painted the rain, is as ethereal as it is physical. The stabs of shortened light look as though they are trying to obscure the country as much as they are trying to bring it into focus, because that's where all the motion is. Van Gogh has made a kind of still life of motion that backs up against the thing it has to absorb to be seen. But back in New York, where I live outside of Van Gogh, rain doesn't look like this. It looks, most of the time, like the rain from the last scene in Breakfast at Tiffany's, where Audrey Hepburn is looking through a torrential episode of The Stuff for a cat named Cat she just threw away. It was snowing in New York and everywhere else, apparently, but especially in New York, because that's where I live and where 5th and Madison and Lexington all run down in the same direction of snow, falling on awnings and doormen and cars and buses, pulling people into schools and jobs all white morning. I love the snow because it neutralizes everything, which in this city, as generic as neutralizing may be, is welcome occasionally. I also love not being able to tell the difference between smoke and snow blowing. And there's a lot of that today, and the quiet, even in the noise of the quiet, like hard thinking. Of course, I can never look or feel objective about snow after seeing Citizen Kane, which somewhere near the end, or is the beginning, the whole film feels kaleidoscopic in the mind, presents a scene in snow around the explanation for a sled named Rosebud, so vibratory in its meaning. Tyrants had childhoods. This is a poem called The Horse Considers His Music. And always that music at night, or whatever that was, rolling over the day lashes and hitting the windows full flash with a dark mirror. Night drops its last oat after its last horse's mouth. And always this other music in daylight when no one is close enough to hear it because of money and the rotting earth and the other discomforts. Once I heard it playing between two trees. Everybody knows of some music sown into life, but there is also music in the field where I am recognized by the other horses who come closer to the ringing ground where the living was. And this is called The Horde. It is dark back there. It's sort of endless. As if I cared enough about the things of this world and hoarded some of the gathered and some of the arbitrary and took them to a place I called the arbitrarium. There was a drawer of marbles and string and wrappers and envelopes and toothpicks and penknives and pens and loose change and Tiffany blue boxes and lube and porn. All crumbs of a boyhood leading to when I was good, before I got lost and claimed by the bad. This was before I acquired, is acquired the word, the fire of mind of me always standing for it. That was youth in flames in the rearview mirror of anything. Poems not just read, but lived by and seen straight through to a clearer world. I could feel the obsession of a writer like a heat in the hand. It doesn't happen anymore, the collection, the gathered, or the arbitrary. I'm the non-collector. Everything I have is with me, stained by me, hair and muscle and the ends of sentences inside an old coat. But still a boy, I think, at silences, who smeared his own shit on walls and played helicopter on the edge of a Connecticut roof until his own brother had to call and drag him off and made him memorize it. Risk, and the R in risk, and the I. It doesn't really happen anymore, and seems to me all a ruse, the life of the mind. What mind? The one that's left like a shell of the one that escaped. A child looks up and sneers into a thing he is holding in his hand, and shakes it up and down to make sure it has noise, and lights up and moves through his own time like no other time than this one. Like a child god in a suit of bells. There is no past. Nobody did anything first. The child knows a joke he tells the cynical son. This is a poem that is based, the title comes from, I have a wonderful colleague at Goddard named Banu Kapil. If any of you know her work, she's a wonderful writer, totally crazy, I just adore her. And very funny. And very serious. One of those like sort of mystical and funny people, which are kind of rare, actually. That's the thing I always distress about mystical people. They're not that funny. But she's really funny. The guy who's starting to rope is funny too. What's his name? Trumpka? He has sense of humor too, but he was drunk. Anyway, I was in her office one day, and I was telling her a story which I then told her wasn't true. And it was a story in which I was asking for her sympathy, and when I told her it wasn't true, she said, "There is where my sympathy comes to an abrupt end." I said, "But no, that's such a good title for something. I'm going to use it." And so I used it. It has nothing to do with the conversation, but it was a great title. So this is where my sympathy comes to an abrupt end, and it's dedicated to Banu Kapil, who lives in Colorado. Sometimes the new dog just stands there not looking for a toy or the small piece of just discarded bite-sized world, and her exaggerated head is cartoonily tilted at a lamp too high, even for humans to turn off. And she's perfectly still in her bulldog-heated heart with the snorkeling apparatus turned off. For one startled minute, is she breathing? As she looks for God or some other radiant ghost we live with, and says in her smarts, "I know who I am in all of this." My dog is a good example for me. Everybody says that, but I really mean it. Because I never stop long enough for exactly this tenderness of looking. Because I am human and cruel and forget to take that island in the day Jane Cooper always talked about, when she wanted me to see the moving hour through a life's still version of it, and then be moved. another prosy piece. How y'all doing? Okay.
Can you read those last 4 lines again?
Yeah. Of looking before I'm human and cruel and forgot to take that island in the day that Jane Cooper always talked about when she wanted me to see the moving hour through life's still version of it and then be moved. You're welcome. Thank you for the request. It's rare. You'll do well. This is called The Poet from Mary Ruefle, who is my current favorite poet in the world. Changes every week. But I love Mary's work. If you don't know Mary Ruefle's work, read it. It's great. I am putting your book by itself, so it won't get mixed in with the usual stuff and the other books I have to carry around with me like a day laborer who is always hungry to see something finished and only sees an empty field with the wind thrown over it. I've always left the game too early and can't remember now what it was I found in a field in Bennington, Vermont that qualified as being totally mojo enough to be used in a spell to make another man love me. It didn't even work. I was dancing then. The whole world was dancing or in love with people who look like dancers. And you were there before your book got written. And this idea to remain anonymous was there too, abiding us with mercy. And somebody said, don't get captured. And we looked up and said the same thing to what we thought was the future, there with its heartbroken electric eye, filming us from the sky. I worked on the racetrack. Actually, the book Track Conditions that you mentioned is a memoir. It's prose. That's sort of where I learned how to write prose. And I have Derby. I had a horse in 1984. I was a groom for a horse in the Kentucky Derby in 1984 and then died. And they thought I had something to do with his death, of course. But I didn't. I don't think. But I was drinking in those days. And I know I didn't kill a racehorse. Anyway, this is called The Track. It's in 3 seconds. I got it when I first started teaching at Sarah Lawrence. The guy, Thomas Lux, is the head of the program, and he read the book and he said, I think you did kill that horse. I said, wait, is it in the book? I mean, where are you getting that from? Are you getting that from like our interview or something? He said, no, I'm not going to tell you how I think that. I think you killed her. I said, hey, Tom, whatever you say. This is called The Track. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the diversions.
Love it.
Good. Oh, good.
Love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm telling you, it was hard, didn't it? It was so hard. So many feelings. It was. I went through my whole. There are days when you could go through your whole life in one day. It's amazing. I did. I had such near-death experiences today. It was unbelievable. I'm serious. It was incredible. The Track. 1. There's a sacred place on the FDR Drive where a car can be the eye inside the East River. And the future of traffic and water is the way upper left of what if this is a painting and I was alive in it. But instead of mortal cars into the sky, I am thinking of the racehorse and what seeing means in his life. And if this were his race, he would know that desire holds more than time, which is why someone in the human class is always on a kind of rail to watch him. 2, things I didn't do when I lived on the racetrack. Read books, look at the stars, call somebody, see a movie, see a play, get in a car, look at stars, call somebody, write a letter, walk into a store, eat vegetables, eat fruit, use a pen, look at stars, call somebody, things you didn't do, look for me. 3, the prophecy. You'll remember a trip south, the woman you went to live with for a while, the woman you told cancer when you didn't have cancer. On the racetrack you said you were dying of the current dying because you didn't know how else it could be understood, what nobody can say. I am living of something. I'm going to read 2 little poems and then a prosy thing. And that's enough.
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Ghosts. I had a twin who I've written a lot about it. I had a twin in 2000. He died in 2002, and he's still somebody that I write about, and will continue to write about. This is called Ghosts. The body is everywhere. He knew that when he let it go. Suspend. The room set the wire of mind as it instructed the body. I think I see him every day, just there, at the edge of life, where it feels like work. I think he comes forward through his death, anxious to mark a wall. But I'm wrong. He wants to repeat a thing so he can live beyond his being taken. A habit, say. Something faulty that won't catch light. There's Kevin, my twin brother, one day sober, trying to light a cigarette in the wind. The body is everything. And this is called What I'm Going to Do Is. Which is based, I just gotta tell you where this title comes from, because it comes again from nothing that has nothing to do with the poem. Nothing that has to do with the poem. There was this great TV movie made, I bet Sandy Leonard knows this, years ago called The Neon Ceiling. Do you know this movie with Gig Young and Lee Grant? Do you remember it? It's about there's I don't remember what it's about. All I know that there's a bar in it with a ceiling that has all this neon in the bar, and there's a kid in it. And the kid is totally ignored through the whole movie. And at the end of the movie, she's standing in the road, and she just looks at the camera, and she said, what I'm going to do is, and that's it, that's the end of the movie. And I just thought it was an extraordinary way to end the movie. And it's haunted me for years and years and years. And this poem is called that. It has nothing to do with the movie, but it's a good title. So it's a better title than The Neon Ceiling. Neon Ceiling is pretty good, though. What I'm going to do is the title, and it's... story. Lots of movies. What I'm going to do is I just want to follow the stranger for a while to see if he actually ends up the way the stranger you are following must end up, in a place nobody ever sees or ever goes to, or maybe it just isn't there at all. The place, as Rilke said, that isn't there until he's there. At the inside pocket of the world, the stranger changes into someone all the heaviness of following him could write, into the one who will save us. For he has always been the stranger. He secretly alights by force. And the last one I'll read you, a prose poem, is called Image Results for the Sky. I was looking for a cover for something, and I Googled, that was the Google search, images, or like Google and then image, and this said results for the sky. So I used that title. Last night's dream opened with me and Andrew lying in an inflatable boat on some body of water somewhere in summer. A plane was slowly falling out of the sky and heading straight towards us. And I remember thinking in the dream, when thinking feels like you're pulling on the length of a telescope, that I'd seen it before, a plane falling, floating almost, towards two men in a boat. And then it stopped, and Andrew instinctively knew nothing was going to happen to us. And later that same day or year of the dream, I'm in a house with a lot of people hanging around, all age groups, a house with a porch in the country, and the air is very still. It's night, and a young man is reading me a poem he wrote, and asks me what I think of it, and I secretly hate it, but of course I don't tell him that. I tell him it feels like the beginning of a poem. I tell him there's no ghost poem, and that every poem has a ghost poem, which upon waking is an idea I don't know is true or not. I'm reading a book by Charles Baxter about subtext, and the ghost idea, I'm sure, came out of that book. And suddenly in the night of the dream, the sky starts this incredible light show, kaleidoscopic, slightly frightening, all about reminding the town enthralled below that the sky really is a screen for the world without a projector. It tells us what it wants to tell us, and then someone else reads a poem, which is a better poem than the first poem. We're at the beach. Everybody is at the beach. It's summer in the first turn. And Jean is there, and me and Andrew, and a slew of beautiful boys beautiful the way they were at the beginning of Liberation, when all the queers looked like hippies. And there's a car, there's always a car, and the guy I'm with, there's always a guy, is driving it the other way, actually sitting the other way, looking at where we were instead of where we're going. And miraculously we get there, the part of the dream that feels goal-oriented. But I don't know what we're there for exactly, unless it's sex, for which, in a lot of dreams, my dreams anyway, it is. There's a carnival on the dream beach, and in the rooms that border the beach, women are painting floors and making flags. And nobody suddenly in the middle of the dream is there that I know. And my cell phone, which the dream has decided to turn into an old sneaker, splits in half. And I'm thinking that Andrew will do everything he can do to find me, or at least take me somewhere where I can get another phone. But where we are, where I am in my dream, makes it clear that even though there are houses and the natural world at the intersection of many people talking and being in so much summer, there is nothing like money or goods or a phone. There is, as there's always been, what we have made and what we brought with us. There is only what we can carry. And I'm doing a reading that night, and so is Jean, but in different places, and I don't know how to reach her or Andrew or the vague choir of boys swimming in my mind, or why I even need to reach the vague choir except for another fix of beauty. And I'm suddenly thinking mundanely, the way a schedule feels mundane, and then sharp in a dream. Who will I have dinner with? And so I just start walking, broken sneaker in hand, down a street of trees. The first trees all day, their first appearance in the dream. And I see a woman dressed up for her performance of some kind because she is carrying a trumpet in a leather case. And dressed in that way musicians who play classical music get dressed, between inspired and formal, black usually, with sneakers. And I say, I know you, and she says, I know you, and then she says, Lisa Epstein, music and art, and I say, that's right, and then I say, Michael Klein, and I wake up to Saturday's unexpected sunlight, into Andrew, into the world I always leave to go dream walking, and I tell him about my dream, and how sad I was that I couldn't find him at one point, and that I didn't know where he was. And Andrew looked at me in this life with his eyes closed and said, I was there. And then with that grapes of wrath sort of intention, I was there behind the tree. Andrew said, I will always be there behind the tree, looking out for you. Thanks.